I'm Pallavi Dubey. I'm a content strategy lead from the India Experience team. Today I'm wearing a black t-shirt and blue jeans.
Hi, I am Namrata Srivastava again from content strategy team of India Experience Studio. I'm also wearing black t-shirt and blue jeans.
Hi everyone, I'm Chetan. I am an experience design lead with the India Experience team. I'm wearing a black shirt with blue jeans.
Right. So before I begin our talk today, which is engineering life and experiential look into habit loops, let me ask you guys a question. What is that one habit that you all have been trying to adopt or change for a very long time? It could be waking up early, maintaining work-life balance, or anything else. Now, think why you have not been able to do it. Was it difficult to begin or pursue, or was it not rewarding at the end? Well, we can think of all the possible reasons: the lack of time, energy, motivation, procrastination, or something simply not fitting into our predefined comfortable routines. But the truth is, my friends, we all are creatures of habit. They say you can fix, kick, or form any habit in 21 days. Habit formation may seem like a psychological event based on a step by step framework of cultivating some actions that make us feel good, like a continuous loop between cause and happiness. And if you're able to find that sweet spot between the two, you can cultivate or kick any habit. Let's talk about some examples. How many of you remember what toothpaste used to taste like 20 or 30 years ago? Frankly, growing up, I never even thought that the taste of toothpaste mattered so much. But one fine morning, I tasted something minty. It felt cool and gave a distinct freshness to my mouth. And before I knew it, I was hooked onto mint flavored toothpaste. Now, you may ask, what is the purpose of making a toothpaste taste so good? Well, our tongues are sensitive to taste, and the happiness that our brain receives when it tastes mint flavored toothpaste is almost the same as when it gets happy when we drink our favorite mint flavored drink or taste our favorite mint flavored candy. Our brain registers that taste and makes us want it almost subconsciously and involuntarily. Another example is that of breakfast cereals. Initially flopped in India and took us Indians quite a few years to get used to. I mean, why crave for cold, bland food drenched in milk when you have such a wide variety of options? So we didn't quite develop that habit despite brands flushing in tons of ideas and money to appease to our cultural palates. Besides, we had healthier options. I mean, between hot steaming idlis and cold cereal, what would you choose? Cultural habits, right? But that's not all. Ever wondered why you've got to have a bag of popcorn every time you sit to watch a movie? Burger and soda. If we don't have them together, our meal does not feel happy, right? Did you realize the two were so closely related? Why do we allow our kids to look at mobile screens and TV screens while eating? Are we ourselves guilty of that? And how many times have you decided to grab a cup of coffee just because you were passing by the cafeteria and were lured in by the smell? Speaking of smells, let's talk about smoking, a habit that has deep physical and psychological dependence. And while there may be many triggers to smoking, that designated smoking spot with its perpetual haze and smell is kind of like an Achilles heel for smokers. Now we know smoking is bad and we want to quit, but that smell triggers us to pick up a cigarette. Whether we are alone or in company, happy or sad, before we know it, we light one. What do we get? Instant gratification. Perhaps the same kind of gratification we derive spending hours playing our favorite games and crossing one difficulty level after another. Or when binge scrolling through our smartphones for the fear of missing out, which is, by the way, another digital habit, modern digital habit, triggered by the phenomenon of social proofing. Chetan, what do you think?
Yeah, in fact, there are numerous factors that lead to the formation of habits. These could be the result of social or peer pressure, or simply put, our culture and surroundings. Today, young people adapt to digital technology as naturally as the older generation once did with radios and microwaves, or yet even better. Trends like capturing or recording every single instance of your day, be it a place that you visited, a meal that you had, a movie that you watched, and then sharing it with the whole world, either for social acceptance or for not being left out, are huge accelerators of forming digital habits. And that is precisely what brands have been leveraging for the longest time without us even being aware of it. They rely on these hooks and invest in habit forming technologies to keep us engaged and sneak into our daily routines by giving us incentives, special statuses, free samples, discounts, etc. And before you know it, a humble espresso shot becomes a venti and we become habituated.
Very interesting. In fact, Forbes magazine published a study conducted by Lookout on 2000 American smartphone users almost a decade back. And that study revealed that 20% of American smartphone users check their phones after sex. 24% while driving, 30% during meals with others, 40% while using the bathroom or toilet, and 54% while simply lying in bed. Between the 18 and 34-old age group, that is a whopping 74%. And this data is 10 years old, so you can imagine the situation now. So, habits may seem like a very, very trivial topic of discussion. We all have good ones and we all have bad ones. But, these are something that we have cultivated out of choice, knowing the consequences fully, fully well. In reality, they are a manipulative dance of our experience, memories, and deep, often dark desires. To kick any bad habit to the curb, we must first understand its anatomy. Let's do that with Namrata.
According to journalist and best-selling author Charles Duhigg, any habit can be broken down into three elements. Cue, which is basically a trigger. Then comes routine, which is our response or set of actions that we take inspired by that cue. And then comes the reward, which is the joy of achieving something. Any habit, good or bad, is a slave of cue. Cues can further be divided into five categories. Location. I'm just passing by the cafeteria and I feel like having coffee. Then time. It's evening. I'm not hungry, but it's my munching time, and so I want to eat something. Then comes emotion. We have often seen in sitcoms that heartbreaks tend to feel better when you have an ice cream tub in hand. And then action of others. For example, I had a really messy day with my boss today, and now I feel like having a glass of wine. And then the last or the immediately preceding action by us. For example, I opened the refrigerator and now I feel suddenly hungry. Now, knowing these cues is important if you really want to change a habit. What is it that makes you do something again and again so that over a period of time it becomes a habit? And cues are complex. Once your brain has experienced the reward, it craves for it. These cravings can happen in any way. They can appear in any form. It could be longing for a relationship. It could be a strong intense desire for a physical item, hunger, thirst, or any other thing. And it is our cravings that make our cues so undeniable. So why does the logical thinking mind gives up rationale and gets addicted to cues? On some experiments done on monkeys, scientists found that when we are trying to build up a habit, there is a spike of activity that happens in our brain, the dopamine surge. And this happens when a reward is attained. Now, our brain loves dopamine and it cannot have enough of it. So, with time, the brain wants to experience that happiness but does not want to wait for the reward. So, it wants to have that spike happen right at the point of cue, right at the point where the routine has even begun. And at this point, our habit is solidly ingrained in our mind and our lifestyle. This also means that the craving has become so powerful that it has actually replaced the cue. And our brain chooses the path of least resistance. So it's very natural that we tend to make habits that provide us pleasure and happiness right at the moment instead of having something as like delayed gratification, for example, exercising. So one question comes to our mind: how do you manipulate habits? Now, this is a question that philosophers and social scientists have been trying to hammer their brain around for a long, long time. But studies suggest that the people who succeed in actually changing their habits are the ones who can track their cues and address them before they become powerful. One such example is of people who had to undergo knee replacement surgery. The recovery from this surgery requires a lot of walking, exercising, and it's very painful. So painful that a lot of people cannot even muster the willpower to go through it entirely. Now, what doctors found is that people who actually wrote down a plan of action of what they were going to help their knee were much more likely to actually go through the whole process and fully recover. Something similar happens for folks who are trying to lose weight. One of the most efficient dieting methods involve keeping a journal of what you have eaten and at what point of the day. Now, by having this simple journaling habit, the dieters have been able to identify patterns and the cues that trigger them to eat certain kind of food items. Now, in this case, journaling has actually led to more habits. It has led to the creation of more habits. And the habits that lead to more habits or spawn into more habits are called keystone habits. Essentially, keystone habits provide us small wins, giving us the reward of encouragement and motivation, which in turn gives us the boost to build more habits. For example, a very simple keystone habit is simply waking up early every day. Now, by waking up early in the morning, I find myself more productive, and this gives me the encouragement to build up more habits. For example, I may start meditation or exercising or creating meal plans for the day or anything else. So, if you can plan how to respond to your cues and create habits that lead to more habits, you can actually engineer strategically your lives, and not just yours, but even for others.
Have you ever wondered why some leaders are able to create a bigger impact? They understand organizational behavior and people psychology. And this is perhaps the reason why some ideas have the power to transform a workplace while many similar ones fall flat. Now, the success of any transformation depends on how easy a change is to be imbibed by its people, how quickly it becomes their second nature, and how consistently they are able to follow it. Some good leaders place positive cues in ways that are easy to acknowledge and respond to, and then they provide feedback so that the action can be performed again and again without any visible push.
So, if you want to bring a mass change naturally with people at the center of it, start with identifying patterns. These patterns could be around productivity, work practices, or culture. And then, step one is to isolate cues from patterns. If you want to continue with certain kind of behaviors, reinforce the cues. But if you want to change some habits, suppress the cues and break the pattern. Let's take the water cooler example. In a team, people spend good amount of their day actually walking to the water cooler and in between chit chatting with their colleagues. Now, this led to a productivity loss of several hours every day. To break this pattern, the management decided to move the water cooler to the middle of the team area. First, it helped the people because they did not have to walk all the way anymore. And secondly, it checked unplanned and needless hanging out during work hours.
Now, step two is to experiment with rewards. We need to understand that when we are dealing with a mass group, like when we are trying to influence masses, one size of the reward does not fit all. Some people prefer tangible rewards, like, hello, give me a hamper any day and I'm very, very happy. And many others are driven by something more intrinsic. Now, as per American psychologist and social philosopher B.F. Skinner, rewards can be of three types. First is the rewards of the tribe, which is something that makes us feel connected to the community, like, say, team recognitions, team parties, events, etc. Then comes the rewards of the hunt. Now, these are related to material resources and information, such as cash rewards or referral bonuses that lead us to win iPhones as well. And third one is the reward of the self. These rewards make people feel self-accomplished. Now, the success of any social campaign depends on how quickly you're able to internalize these external rewards. Give an aha moment to your employees and watch them get hooked to your campaign. Deep emotional insights create positive and permanent neural changes in the brain, and the behavior is especially embedded because the authentic self is at play.
In fact, one example that I distinctly remember is cultivating the habit of inclusion by the deliberate use of one's pronouns in email signatures and social media profiles. This breaks the pattern of making assumptions, and it also encourages a routine of being aware and conscious of how someone will like to be addressed. The reward at a personal level is a deep sense of satisfaction of becoming a very inclusive person, perhaps even a future leader. And at an organizational level, when such habits are encouraged, they breed a feeling of working at a place that is both respectful and accepting in nature and in culture.
In fact, the entire reward and recognition mechanism is based on the tenet that in order while acknowledging your peers' efforts, you are basically paving the path for your own growth. Initiatives like no business emails after 6 o'clock, or 4-day work week, or half day Fridays. These all are cues placed by organizations to encourage certain kind of habits. In this case, the intent is to actually improve upon work-life balance and work culture in general. When leaders acknowledge these kind of behaviors, they pave a way for a collective reward, and abiding by these kind of rules comes naturally to their people. Now, next time when you want to do something for yourself or your kids, friends, or colleagues, we recommend that do not think about how you can create learning opportunities for them, or how you can make them better, or how you can give them more time offs. Think about what habits you want to inculcate and what rewards people will get out of those habits. If you can figure out these habits and behaviors and their corresponding rewards, two-thirds of your job is done. The one third left now is only about positioning cues and consistently following up on them. And this is how, my friends, we can engineer relevant experiences and our lives in whichever way we want. Thank you.
Thank you.